in town. I am joined by somebody running for the special election position. Since Devin Nunes decided to move on and work for Trump, we need to fill that position, and we hopefully will have a conservative in that position. So today I'm joined by Michael Maher. Before we get into introductions and find out what he's about, I always want to go through my opportunities to get involved. Saturday, there is an election integrity event in Clovis. You will need to sign up. I will put it in the show notes. It is sponsored by Rachel Ham, so I'm sure on her Rachel Ham for Secretary of State website, I'm sure there's a link, but I will also put it in the show notes, so down in the comments. That is Saturday, 2/5 from 9 to 3. Sunday, there's a medical freedom rally. There's usually 35, 40 people out there. This one's going to be at Shaw and Clovis Avenue from 2 to 4. And they're just out there trying to let everybody know that, hey, if we don't have choice, whether it's mass choice or the choice to get the shot or not, you don't have control of your body. So I consider that an important issue. Monday night is the Clovis chapter of Constitutionalists for California. We meet at 1123 Railroad Avenue. We usually have a pretty spirited debate, and we're pretty passionate about issues. And one of the things I love about the Clovis chapter is that pretty much every regular member is consistently going out and getting involved. They're not just there to complain. They're there to do something, to find solutions, to work on fixing it. Tuesday night is a big event, and I hope a bunch of people go because Lisa Smitkamp is great. She is speaking at the Kingsburg chapter of Constitutionalists for California. That is 6:30 p.m. at 15,000 Rose Avenue. That is the corner of Rose and Zedeker. That is at the church in the basement. If it got giant, though, we could move upstairs. So get involved, folks. There was a local issue that happened last night. Actually, two school board member meetings. I'm only going to talk about these for a minute. Clovis, I have hope. I would like our representatives, the trustees, to be a little stronger from my perspective, but they're very much about following the law and are pretty cautious, but mostly they're good people. So there's a little ray of hope, but it's not perfect. On the other hand, it was absolute chaos at the Fresno school board meeting. Now, I was at Clovis, but I heard from multiple friends that were there. People were allowed to yell and scream. People were allowed to absolutely have kind of meltdown fits, not during their speaking time, but from the audience, and they weren't removed. But all the people that had meltdowns seemed to be from the left. Why is there a double standard? You have the right to speak. I truly believe in the First Amendment, but you don't have the right to be heard at the inappropriate time. There was an appalling lack of civility, and then the people that did defend Trustee Islas, who made some pretty out-of-line remarks, they didn't focus on the fact that it is the second worst school district in the nation, or fixing it. It was all about COVID. I think there's bigger problems than COVID, actually, at Fresno Unified. If the kids are graduating with elementary school reading levels, they can't get a job, and what are they going to do to our community? So we need to fix that one, folks. Next, I believe it's the 16th. We have another Fresno School Board meeting. You should be there. We need to be there in force. They need to understand that they need to focus on educating the kids and cut all the nonsense of everything needs to be equity. I want equality of opportunity. Michael, you had a couple events that you're going to be attending coming up. Tell me about what those are, and then we'll get into your story. The last bit of events.
Thanks, Eric. So tonight, actually, I will be attending the Tulare King's Right to Life event at the Fox Theater in downtown Visalia, and everyone can still go on the line and buy tickets for the event. So that's going to be an exciting event. And then also next week, Tuesday at 8, there is a Pastor Jim Franklin's doing a also Right to Life event with Right to Life director John Girardi at the City Hall outside of Fresno Veterans Memorial. So that will be another great event to be at. And then you already mentioned the events over Saturday and Sunday. There's also the Fresno Gun Show.
Yes.
So we'll be there.
Good. That's a great opportunity to talk to people that actually believe in freedoms.
Well, also a great place to pick up another gun. So
I completely understand that. Tell me a little bit about your history. Why did you jump into this race? What is your background?
So I jumped into the race after a lot of prayer and thought. My background starts, I'm born in California, went to high school, Clara Union, graduated class of 2001. Later that year, November 16, 2001, I enlisted in the Navy to serve in the military.
So you must have been pretty young.
I was, boot camp, 18 years old. So, people say I still look really young. I would already be retired from the military if I didn't get injured. Devin Nunes, whose seat it is, that I'm not trying to replace. I'm trying to continue on what he's done and finish his term, and then continue to represent the same district. He's only 9 years older than me, so people do say I have a baby face, and my wife is thankful for that.
Long term, with each year, you'll be happier about that.
I think so. It's a blessing. So eat well, live well, and it's been good.
So I did want to say thank you for serving. I consider that important. You chose to give up your freedoms because the military really does not have the same list of freedoms. If you don't like what's happening, you can complain all you want, but you don't really have any redress.
No, you do not. A different code of justice. It is and we need that. We need a fighting force, and not a military that's focused on social issues. We need a force that's focused on national defense and actually accomplishing a mission. So that's it was a great time to serve. We did a lot of great things, and I'm extremely thankful for the relationships, friends, and everything I learned there. It set the stage for me to do a lot of the things I did after the military, running engineering construction operations all throughout the Central Valley in California, and then later serving as a special agent with the FBI, doing a lot of law enforcement activities and national security work. So it's that foundation, starting from an enlisted guy, getting the Secretary of the Navy's appointment to the United States Naval Academy, and being able to have the education, the active duty experience, has really allowed so many doors to open for my future, and I'm extremely thankful for that.
Well, I read your bio. You went to Oxford?
I went to Oxford. I did. Road crew actually for the first aid, the number one boat in the college. So absolutely great time. I was involved in a lot of good societies over there, debate, strategic studies groups, and valuable relationships. And that was a great experience, not only for the education and the direct access to the faculty, but a lot of the classmates and people I was with, and the ones who came from the United States that were over there, are all actively engaged still within the government, or some of them are elected leaders, some are running for governor. There's some that are even in this current administration. But it was an environment where I really appreciated the ability to have differing views. And it doesn't sound like this happened at the school board meeting in Fresno last night, but
no, there were differing views. It's just during the speaking session, there were differing views. During the closed session, when nobody but the board members should be speaking, there were people yelling out and out of line.
Yeah, so that was something that was I was really respected on where I stood, and I didn't feel I had to change my position, but we would have good conversations, and I could share my beliefs as a conservative, as a Christian, with other people who had different views. And there was a mutual respect through the whole process. And even Steve Bannon went and spoke at the Oxford Union. And you can see that there's some people that kind of spoke out. But overall, the point of that is to have, we're all students. We're all able to study and learn from each other. So
it's not UC Berkeley where only one narrative and one perspective is allowed to be spoken.
It wasn't when I was there. And it does sound like there has been some changes, and there is globally. I think we can see there is an overtone that is really being driven, but the respect was still there, that you could completely voice who and what you believed in.
Now, because I lead a group, I reached out to a few of my members that I think are pretty sharp, and they came up with some questions. One of them has to do with your FBI service. I'm going to actually read his question because I want to get it right. Oh, it's right there. The FBI used to be a highly trusted and admired agency, but recently that trust has been severely tarnished, if not destroyed. As a former FBI agent, why should we trust you?
Why should you trust me? Well, I would ask that people trust a person based on merit and based on character and based on qualifications, not based on what their name tag says. That's the first and foremost thing that I would say. And I would agree. But I'd also remind people that the FBI, from its founding as the Bureau of Investigation through the times of J. Edgar to what it is now, this isn't the first time that the organization's faced a controversy. And I will say there's a lot of people, when in the military and in government, we swear to uphold the Constitution. And that's what should occur. And it stands for fidelity, bravery, and integrity. And it's clear that there are bad apples, just like there's bad apples in every organization. I am not happy with what occurred in my agency. And I will completely stand up against it. There's a lot of people internally that also stood up against it. But there's a lot of great work that the organization does that does not hit the news at all, because we've avoided and prevented a lot of things from happening. And there's still...
Well, which you can't tell us, largely.
Which I won't even get into. But yeah, there is some issues. And it's not just the FBI. This is something that we see with judicial activism that's going across the entire country. The FBI does investigations. It also does a lot of other national security work all over the world. But on criminal or public corruption investigations, which Fresno's familiar with some of the public corruption investigations that happened here, that is a process. And if the U.S. Department of Justice, just like here with Lisa Smith-Campen as a DA, if her office chooses to issue a declination to prosecute, the law enforcement are not going to be able to continue their investigation because there's so many investigations going on. If there's no prosecution, that's why we have to really think about who we're putting in on the bench as judges, who are electing to be our district attorneys. The same thing goes in the DOJ. If the DOJ on a criminal investigation says we're not going to pursue it,
you're done.
You're done. You're not technically done, but you are done because there's only so much resources and so much money that can be spent on investigations. The investigations are costly, and so that is a real big challenge. And then there's the organization should not be used for political means. Period. And I was disappointed to see that it was, and I was disappointed to see the lack of integrity, and also the fact that a lot of things weren't fully handled. I know that we have basically an internal affairs office of professional responsibility that handles things, and if as a regular street agent doing casework had conducted ourselves, you'd lose your job.
So there'd be consequences for the people at the bottom, but because so much of what was happening was at the top, it didn't get taken care of. Is that fair?
It was not a equal application of policy. So no, I don't think it was fair. But I will say, just as President Trump said, and even Devin Nunes said, there's still a lot of great guys in the intelligence community, in all of our agencies and in our military. And that's one thing I did. I left the FBI, largely because the last 3 years I was spending about 50 to 52 days a year with my family. And that is not a sustainable way to be a father or a husband, no matter how important the work you're doing. My wife and my kids are more important to me than that. And also my relationship with God. So my priorities, I felt, were kind of getting a little bit out of order, even though the work was addicting and we were doing really, really good things.
Well, it sounds like you're still a pretty busy guy just with the job you still have, not even counting this Congress thing.
Absolutely. And that gets back to your first question. Congress was not something that I was planning on doing. I've been asked to run for Congress before, and I know about it. I've been involved in a few different political campaigns. I actually walked for Connie Conway when I was in high school. Was did a great job, and even walked and supported Devin Nunes, and still support what he's doing. So coming from the same high school, growing up in Tulare, that's easy to get involved with good leaders. Why I got in this race specifically with all that I have going on is largely due to my faith. People had asked me a couple of years ago, would you run? I said, let's stop having the conversation. I said, the first and foremost is I like Devin Nunes and I support him. So the only way I'd ever run is if he resigned. And I caveated and said, and where I live now in Kingsburg is more central to the district. And I said, those two things are never going to happen. Kingsburg is a small little town. It was divided in half. So half of us were in Nunes' district. The other half were in Valadeo's. And so I just basically said, let me focus on business, and I'll bring the change that I can bring through my business, bringing jobs and high paying jobs to the Valley, and also helping dairy and some of our forestry partners in this new sustainable fuel business under capitalistic view sets.
What a crazy idea.
It is.
What's wrong with you? Capitalism.
Well,
that's against the new woke.
Well, no, the government should pay for everything. It's because the government can print money
with no consequences.
With no consequences. That's why we don't have this inflation. Where does that come from? Yeah. I don't know.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I want to say thank you to all of the people that watch the show. You know, I don't really care whether I'm famous. I care whether the message gets out. And I think I bring it in a different way, having this longer format. I'm a passionate activist, and I believe in freedom. I even believe in freedom when somebody says something or behaves in a way I don't like. I think they do have freedom. Now, we'll get back to a couple things where I have some questions, but we are the beacon for the world. And if we were truly so incredibly horrible and we were so systemically racist, why is it that all of those people and I hesitate to use the word those people because skin color doesn't much matter to me, but it does to the left. So people from Africa, people from Latin areas, people from Asia, they have a different skin tone than I do. Not real important. What I care about is their values. Nonetheless, they all in large numbers want to come here. If this was this horrible place, why would they want to come here? Because they want to access this incredible opportunity, and they want the freedom to set their own destiny. In the United States, Nigerians are more affluent as a group than whites. So are Sikhs. So are Koreans. So are Japanese Americans, or I should say American Japanese. So there is the opportunity. Remember that, folks. Don't let go of the American dream. Don't let them talk you into something else. Equity means socialism. I want equality of opportunity. We're going to go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Sorry for getting on my soapbox there. Once in a while I get passionate about this. I truly believe in this. Michael, who's endorsing you?
So far we had Kevin Cookingham came out and endorsed me.
Good guy, consider him a friend.
Great man, man of integrity. And then Andy Videk also has endorsed me in the 21st District in my race against Jim Costa. And that's kind of what this is about. It's not just about a special election and a title. It's about representing our valley and the constituents of the 22nd that remain after this new gerrymandering that's occurred in the state. So I'm committed to not only running in this special election, but continuing to run.
So you're in for the long haul.
Absolutely. This is more important. I feel at this time, and as we last spoke on why I stepped in and talking about if Devin resigns and Kingsburg's more central, my phone ended up blowing up and people were calling saying it's time for you to run. I said, well, let's pray about it and see. And then when the map came out in Kingsburg, and as I asked, I said, God, are you trying to tell me something?
He wouldn't have had you say that beforehand.
Yeah.
Planted that seed.
And so with that and the amount of people that called and encouraged me to step into the race, I've never ran for office before.
This is a big step for a first step. Usually it's school board or city council.
Right. And so I've been on other policy boards and I'm in various policy councils and been around politics. But for me to step into this and then have my wife, my boys, it is a big step. And I really wanted to think about it in a really sincere way and asked my wife. And I thought maybe she wouldn't. She goes, no, we need you to do this right now. And I feel we're at the foundation of our country fighting against tyranny. I'm willing to put my fortune and my family and these things on the line right now at a cost to me to step into this role, because that's where we are as a country. The tyranny, it's just authoritarianism. We're talking about it all over the world. What is going on in our country right now is not the United States that I raised my hand to serve in the military for, or step up in law enforcement to stand up for. And that's where, back to a lot of the guys, men and women in the Bureau and in these agencies, I'm probably the number one recruiter keeping people in these positions and in these jobs, because they're calling me and saying, hey, Mike, how can you help me? And I've helped people get jobs out of the Bureau and other agencies. But I'm also saying, we need you to stay there. We need you to continue to be a person of integrity, because I know these guys and gals that are doing really, really good work and their heart's in the right place and they believe in the Constitution. And I don't want their seats and their positions filled with some equity quota, because, as you said, that's communism. That's where this is all rooted in. But I know I went off on a tangent there, but
that's all right.
Those are kind of the important foundations of why I'm willing to do this and why I'm going to do this until we raise up another leader that can take my place.
So you mentioned faith several times. What role does faith play in your life? Because that tells us a lot about somebody.
It's central. It's my foundation. So it is the lens I view my life from, and that's one of the reasons why I had to step back from my service in the Bureau. My priorities first, God, and then my family, and then these other things. My father's a preacher in Tulare, but just because my dad's a preacher doesn't mean I inherit salvation. It's a personal choice that I made.
Right, you have to earn it by your behavior, and you have to live it.
And so it is an important thing, and it's something I asked a lot of people before giving me money. I said, I need you guys to continue to pray for me and support me and my family if I'm going to make this step. And I had a lot of very close and dear friends say that they would, and that's what's inspired me to continue to press on.
Well, you're kind of in a special place, in a small community in Kingsburg. I'm very familiar with Kingsburg. Recently did a show about Kingsburg with Mayor North, because I think it's a special place. I love Clovis, and my business is there, my family's there, my life's there, but if I had to move somewhere else in California, it'd be just down the road.
Well, we're happy to welcome as many people from Clovis or anywhere that wants to come in, and Mayor North is doing a great job for the city, and our downtown is absolutely incredible.
Oh, it's amazing.
The bakeries and pizza shops, and we got a brewery coming in. It's the
life, but also the fact that they stayed open. They took a different path during COVID. That brings me to local control. You're running for Congress, which means any laws that you vote against or advocate for will be national control. What role between the national and local? What do you see the role there?
Well, I see the role as it's framed by our framers in the Constitution, and the role of states coming together. States have their ability to pass laws and control how they do business. That's why there is differences from state to state. And I like that. And I wish there was actually more control at the local level. And that's why I'm encouraging people, you don't have to just run for Congress. You can, as you said, school boards, city council, get involved in every aspect of it, because we cannot just sit back and let people who aren't passionate about serving their community continue to be in these places. because it is a vital importance. And we're seeing that with the school boards. We're seeing that with the stuff that is being just shoved down our whole nation's throat. What happened out in Virginia with Governor Youngkin?
Yeah.
I mean, that is absolutely the people saying we are not tolerating this anymore, and we want our control back.
Well, and it wasn't just him.
No,
the Secretary of State, and Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
Also won. There was one other position.
The Attorney General, the Lieutenant Governor, service member. And it is funny you mentioned too why is it on the left that you can, scream racial epithets and do all of these things, and you're not removed from a meeting, but if you sit there and you say something that potentially becomes conservative, they'll arrest you and throw you out. I mean, that's the double standard, and that's why I'm very thankful for the leadership that we have in Kingsburg and the involvement of the citizens in their government. That's vitally important.
Well,
and
this starts local.
It does. It is 100%.
Everything starts and builds from local. The leaders that we start off with local normally move on to become leaders at a higher level. And if they're people that have a moral center, that believe in American values, freedom, liberty, First Amendment, and all of its aspects, Second Amendment that is there just in case the First Amendment didn't work out. And that's from my perspective. I see it as if the First Amendment didn't work out, you might have to protect your freedoms with the Second Amendment. Hope I never do.
Well, not only that, the Second Amendment is a wonderful amendment, especially from where we came at the beginning of the country till now. And some of the more rural areas, family farms and ranches, there's going to be a significant gap between when you call for services and when somebody arrives, and you need to be able to defend yourself at your home. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great right to have, and it's a right that we should all have to bear arms. And it's very interesting when we ask now, as far as Congress and national policy and these gun bans and some of these issues, what's going on? Well, if we can't get rid of the guns, we're going to try to control your ammo. If we can't do this, it is that's not the way our government was set up, and we should not be using those levers, bureaucratic levers, through policy to be doing that. And so those are the things that I would like to push back on the federal level. And a lot of people say, well, you can't talk about these state issues. And I said, well, why not? I'm a citizen. I live here. I can still bring attention to them. I might not be able to vote on them, but I have just as much voice as any of my other neighbors or family here. But when it comes to the federal policies, those are the ones that we can vote on. But I'm happy to talk about any of these issues.
It's crazy to me in California that I have to have a real ID to buy ammo. Not just an ID, just to buy ammo. Now, I've jumped through every other hoop as a responsible gun owner, and I have to be ID to get ammo. And I don't know what you can do at the federal level, but
well, because ammo is way more important than voting, right? I mean, well, so we should definitely only have IDs for buying ammo, but not going out to vote.
That is the one place where I would not object to there being a federal statute as far as voting. I generally want the federal government to leave the states alone as much as possible. Care for the common defense, run the military. I suppose there has to be some taxation, but I'm never happy about that because I think that so much money gets wasted. And we found that through this COVID tyranny, suddenly there's a bureaucracy that is telling the politicians what to do. And when you have weak, pitiful politicians in California, they listen to the bureaucracy.
Well, it's worse if anyone watches Senator Hawley or Ron Paul. Rand Paul had somebody from the Small Business Administration in front of him just a few days ago. Their job is oversight, and you call a person who's basically a public employee who's coming before his committee and is not even answering oversight questions. That's the problem with bureaucracy, and these people in government. It's not you're serving the country. You're serving our citizenry. You're responsible and you report back to the citizens. That's why we need more transparency. And when we have bureaucrats who are saying, well, I'm just not going to sit here. And some of them will say, well, and I've heard this internally, we'll just wait till the next guy comes and we'll just wait it out.
And you can't hardly fire him because of the incestuous government unions.
Correct.
FDR, an icon of the left, talked about government unions as incestuous. I didn't come up with this myself. The reason he thought so was because then you could not get rid of people that were bad unless they do something so egregious. But if they're just, say, a terrible employee, you can't get rid of them because of unions. There are a lot of laws that have come into place since the 1890s that protect employees. I don't know that unions have quite the place they used to or the need. I don't think they're all bad. In the 1890s, they were desperately needed.
Absolutely,
they were a counterbalance. Now there's a lot of laws in place that protect you. Even without the union, you have a lot more rights. So, not quite sure where I stand. I don't know that they should be gone because I believe in the freedom to have to make that choice. But them being too powerful and them being associated with government is highly concerning.
It is extremely concerning, especially when you see unions contributing to politicians or to a specific political group when they are funded by the taxpayers themselves. So that it is a challenge, and there was a need for unions in the beginning, and it's still good to have associations of and groups of people looking after a common voice for your group that you work in, but to require all the mandatory fees and dues. And so I did construction and engineering, and it's incredible to me that it costs 3 times as much to do the same exact. If I had an engineering firm give me the same exact plans and with the same exact requirements, and we built the same exact building, if I built it for the government, it's 3 times as much as if I built it just privately as a business owner under private construction. The same guys work the sites.
Same guys, same material, same plan.
And the pay between the guys isn't entirely that much different. It's what ends up happening is the amount of money that goes out of that to Davis Beacon, the Federal Wage Act, or the state requirements for paying the unions for these projects. So it's always about following the money, and that's what we did in law enforcement. You want to find something out, let's follow the money.
That's very true. What do you know about the Constitution? Have you taken a course? Is there a particular founding father that says things that speak to you?
Know a fair bit about the Constitution. I have a few pocket constitutions, and not as much as I want to know, but it's a document that we need to continue to study, especially when it's not. A lot of people talk about like the Supreme Court and their interpretation, what the Supreme Court's standing for, and we're going to say and apply what the Constitution says to it. We need to understand the intent of all the framers of the Constitution.
Right. So reading Federalist Papers and things.
Absolutely. And so those are things that have to be done. And we also need to get it back into our schools. Why are we not teaching the foundation of our country to every single citizen? I am baffled. We want to talk about other topics, but we're not going to talk about why America is such a great nation. Why we did not turn into Australia over this pandemic.
And there's 2 reasons. One is the Constitution, the other is the Second Amendment.
It is. And that's also the Second Amendment and the amount of weapons that are owned privately in the United States. It does allow for a strong national defense. Other countries are thinking, if we do invade the United States, there's people who have hundreds of guns. And so it's not just about beating the military. It is about, well, what are you going to do after you invaded? That is a vital issue. And so the Constitution, and then all the various amendments that we had over the years, we had to take a lot of courses on this in the FBI. We have a tremendous amount of legal background because we can't and we shouldn't be violating anyone's rights. The
Well-
Fourth Amendment, all of the different amendments, search and seizures, your right to counsel, there's a lot that is there, and there was so much thought that was put into this. It's incredible. It's an incredible document to read, and how it still is so applicable today. Try to think of a better way to really manage a society.
Well, it's crazy to me that we don't teach it in schools, that every law enforcement officer, every military person, every person that's elected to office takes an oath to the Constitution, but how little people know about it. There's a pretty easy thing. You can sign up for free at hillsdalecollege.com and listen to constitutional courses. Been through it more than once. I think it's highly useful. You could watch it on your way to work. Well, you can't watch it. You can listen to it. It is a video as well as an audio. But I think that's a great way to use up time. When I'm driving somewhere, I find an educational video, and I'm usually good for about an hour. If it's longer than that, then I need to listen to some music or something fun for a little while. But I regularly do that. And at hillsdalecollege.com, free constitutional courses. They'd be happy to provide them.
And not just that, Larry Arndt with Hillsdale and all he's done with that, the Imprimis. That was
I love that publication. Yeah.
Great publication. That and these are free. So everyone listening, free courses, free brochures that are vital for educating everyone.
Or even if you want quantity of them because you want to give them out to a group, like I ordered a bunch on critical race theory and gave out hundreds. It was a very minimal cost. It was like the cost of the paper and the cost of the shipping. So very minimal cost to get hundreds. So that is a great resource. John Birch Society is also another great resource. They have an amazing group of pamphlets, information, educational tools. So in today's world, it's not hard to find those. We're going to go ahead and take our last break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I want to say thank you to all of my viewers. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button. If you think that I'm doing a good job and bringing light to issues, subscribe. If you put comments in, there's only one person that I will not answer their comments, which means that the vast majority of everybody else, I would be happy to answer their comments. One person, there's a reason. They know it. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about mandates, a little bit about social issues, and then I want to end up talking about hope. Because I think that even in all this COVID tyranny, even with a left that doesn't believe in the First Amendment, there's still hope. And I think that we need to go out and we need to grab our freedom and our rights back. They didn't disappear. We gave them up. You know, the definition of mandate doesn't do anything if you don't comply. So we're going to go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I am joined by Michael Maher. He is running for the special election spot that Devin Nunes used to hold. He moved on to help Trump open, is it Truth Social?
Correct.
And so we're having a conversation today. Where do you stand on mandates?
Well, the mandate that we're all talking about right now is absolutely, it's crazy. To say anything else is just, it's absolutely crazy, the mandates that are going on. And this is why we love the Constitution and some of these things that are being struck down, vaccine mandates. And I want to also be clear, it's not a vaccine. So the amount of changes on definitions of words and in this last 2 years is it's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think it's a vaccine. Maybe it works for those that are vulnerable, maybe, but didn't seem to work so well for Omicron. Doesn't seem to last very long. Seems to require a never-ending line of boosters. I can't understand what's happening. And the fact that Pfizer just asked to have kids as young as 4 months old. Just asked. Now, that doesn't mean it got the approval, but they're about the money. They don't care about the consequences. And
No.
we don't know any long-term consequences. We do know that there are some consequences, but we don't know completely. If you look at information out of Canada, about 1 in 3,000 younger people that get the shot, that are male, have a severe problem with myocarditis. You get the same information, almost exactly the same numbers out of Denmark and Sweden. So we need to be careful with this. Our youth aren't vulnerable. So what could you do about mask mandates and vaccine mandates if you're elected?
Just publicly stand up against them. And so there's what you can do as far as passing legislation and voting on legislation and recognizing how it actually works federally, but also just speaking out about it and the power that that really Trump had through social media, and why he got shut off was he was getting a message out, a common sense message to the people. That's something that we can do, and I'm trying to do now, and that's something that I want to stand up against is these mandates. And actually, let's talk about real science and not what Fauci is talking about. The stuff that has come out of Fauci over his life is just it boggles your mind. At first, some of this stuff is like, this has to be a fake video. No, this is exactly what he said.
Well, when you're bought and paid for, it's easy to lie whenever you need to. And that's how I see Fauci.
But you work for the people. Your paycheck is from the people.
No, his paycheck's from Pfizer or one of them. I'm pretty darn sure.
Well, I'm sure that there is some, and that gets into also on the, we need, medication is a great thing. Modern pharmacy is great. What we're seeing right now is not good. So I've had to take, over the course of my life, antibiotics or other treatments, and I've actually had to get a lot of different shots for when I was in the military and when I was in the government, all kinds of different things. And that's one issue. On this specific topic, when you're looking only and concerned about profits of your shareholders, that's a huge problem. What is going on right now with the FDA, they're not applying everything the same. The myocarditis that you talked about, if that occurred on some other drug studies, and there is,
it'd be shut down.
It'd be shut down. Why this not vulnerable population, we're wanting to not give it to our kids? It makes absolutely no sense. And the only thing I can see out of it is money and profit and power.
Well, and they're not willing to even really have a conversation about natural immunity.
No.
So somebody catches it, they finally admitted, but it was like pulling teeth to get them to admit that natural immunity works better than the shot. But it's like that doesn't even exist. You're supposed to get shot anyway.
Well, it's worse too, and this gets into how the control over media and social media and all of these, you would be banned and deplatformed for saying what they're now saying now at the beginning of the pandemic. And when this happened, initially, it was extremely alarming and concerning.
Well, wrong information came out about a death rate that was more in the range of Ebola.
Right, exactly. And so it was alarming and concerning. But as we progressed and started to learn more, instead of scaling back and handling it accordingly, it was, look how much power we can grab. And
looks how much money we can make, because there is an interconnected web between NIH, FDA, CDC, Big Pharma, and Big Pharma that advertises on every major news channel.
Well, not
they're
just that. Look
all
what
got a
happened.
financial connection.
Look at how many packages that are driving around and getting delivered now. The death of the small business on our main street in our downtown. That's one of the things I love about Kingsburg. The downtown's grown. The businesses are doing well. And there is the places that still believe in freedom that have handled this well. And that's the problem, is when the federal government's shoving money to states, and they're using money. You want this, your school district wants this, you want this at your local and city level, you have to follow these mandates. If you don't, you're going to lose that money. And so you're buying off control.
Bribe money.
It is, with our own money, our own taxpaying money.
So we have just a Where do you kind of stand on social issues? I know that right at the beginning of the show, you talked about abortion. What's your view?
It's evil. It's a mass genocide. I'm completely pro-life, and we'll go all the way to the point that I believe at conception, that's when God knew you, and that's when life starts. So I can't believe that is actually a radical thought to be pro-life and pro-rights of our unborn is just incredible. And
well, they don't see it as two people. Clearly, you see it as two people at the point of conception. There's the mother, and then there's...
But they do see it as two people when it comes to the matter of criminal law. If a pregnant woman, and I shared this before, if a pregnant woman's on the way to an abortion clinic, and she is killed in a car accident by a drunk driver, there's two deaths charged. So why is it a life in that situation under law, but it's not? Their arguments they don't make sense, and it's rooted in just the foundation of Planned Parenthood. There is so much there that people, I'm sure most of your audience knows about, that it's evil. It is just absolutely evil. And the other issue that I want to say that is not talked about, because this is not a 1 minute soundbite topic, there is serious love that needs to be applied, and this gets into, you mentioned hope. Anyone who has had to go through an abortion or knows somebody that's been through an abortion, we need to learn how to connect and love those people and talk with them and encourage them, because it's a traumatic event.
It leaves a scar on their psyche.
And it does. It really does leave a scar. And so you have to be very thoughtful when you talk about this, because I can be against this genocide, but I can still love and support somebody who ended up making that choice that I completely disagree with, and want to counsel and want to say, here's how we can support you through that, so these choices are not made again. And here's how. And there's so many amazing women that have now who made that choice, who now are massive advocates for life. And there's boys and girls who are men and women now that were going to be aborted, and they're alive because somebody along the way in the pro-life movement went out, spoke to one of these mothers and said, we'll help you through this time. And it is about love. That is what this all is about, and we need to apply it through love. But I cannot support one abortion.
We are not going to have time to get to outreach, unfortunately. I do think that, as a tip, there's several groups that you need to make a major effort to reach out to. Hispanics, Hmong, Sikh. I would even say African Americans, because there is certainly a core group of them that will hear your message. I think that all of those groups have something in common. Most of them believe in freedom.
Absolutely.
Or no, I don't say most, all of them.
Yeah, all do.
So we're not going to get into that one because we're running out of time. We're down to about 2 minutes. Why are you hopeful? I just wanted to throw that out because we need to be all thinking about how can we reach our neighbor. But why are you hopeful?
I'm hopeful because those groups that you mentioned, I already have had a life of relationships with. So, and we'll continue to do that. I'm hopeful because people are standing up. I'm hopeful because there's so much that our valley has to offer, and there's so many good solutions on the table, and it just takes all of us stepping up and getting engaged and voting. We have these liberties, we have these rights. All we have to do is own them and take control of them, and let others know that we have them. These are our rights. And the amount of people that I've engaged and met since January 3rd, when I filed papers to run for office, is absolutely incredible. It has been so inspiring. So many people across the United States, but not just that, here in the Valley, that are so passionate about this. There is a common theme that is echoing all over the Valley of taking back control and hope for our Valley and loving your neighbor.
There's no more time for apathy.
None. So you need to do it. We need leaders who are going to fight. I'm a guy who has fought and will continue to fight. And I will fight for our Valley, not just in one special election, but for our Valley and for the people until we can raise up another leader.
Well, it sounds like you have the heart of a servant. And I think that's important for people that we're sending to Congress. If they don't have a strong foundation, if If they don't have the heart of a servant, they're about serving themselves. Any final thoughts, and how do we contact you?
Thank you. Yeah. Final thoughts are, I want to thank you for having me on the air, and anyone else who wants to reach out. My last name is Maher, spelled Maher, Michael Maher. You can go to michaelmaher.com. It has bio. It has a lot more information on there. There's ways to donate and support the campaign, or just sign up and to knock. We're also having an event on the 12th of this month at our headquarters in Kingsburg, and all that information is going to be on the website. So I just want to say thank you, and that's it.
Well, I thank you very much for joining me today. Go ahead and I want to thank everybody that listened today. I want to thank my new opportunities on Spotify and YouTube. I'm still on Facebook. This plays on Saturdays from 3 to 4, so it's taped. Give us your contact information one more time.
michaelmaher.com, michaelmaher.com.
Well, Michael, it was a pleasure talking to you today, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much for having me on.